You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome back, listeners, to a new season of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today, it's Amy and Christos. Hello, Christos. I'll come to you first. How have you been, stranger?
I have been well, keeping busy as usual. Really happy to be back here with you guys. I've missed you.
We've missed you. It's so good to see you. I know, and thank you for coming on the view screen as well in the chat. Every time you would post a message, it's like he's still with us.
You guys, I was like so spoiled because I got to see you guys still every Sunday and just sit back with my coffee in the recliner and do nothing other than just take it all in and enjoy it. So, you guys were doing all the work.
And now you're here in the hot seat back. We're putting you back to work.
I love it. I love it. Bring it.
I was worried when you were messaging saying, oh, I've just got so used to sitting in bed with coffee, watching you and Aim. I'm like, oh my God, he's not going to want to come back when we go back to All Good Things.
Wait a minute. A little part-time job where your job is to watch a Star Trek episode and talk about it. It's not work. Come on. Let's go.
And Amy, how are you?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's Sunday morning, 9 a.m. I'm right where I should be talking Star Trek.
Right. Okay. Well, let's dive a little deeper into what we've been up to this week and see what's brought us a little bit of great joy and gratitude.
Great joy and gratitude.
So, Amy, great joy and gratitude. What have you got this week?
Well, I talk about it a lot, but I still have great joy and gratitude for people who come into Las Vegas and make sure to spend some time with me. I had a fabulous visit with Christos last weekend, who came to Las Vegas. We had an excellent dinner at our favorite place. We went to a concert, just so good. And then this weekend, I had another friend from New Mexico come in. So I got to see him yesterday. So I just love that my Star Trek family comes to visit. So I'm always grateful.
You are one of the star attractions of Las Vegas. I don't really have a huge one this week. I just want to say thank you to everybody who made the last 10 weeks of the view screen possible. All the guests, all the viewers, everyone who's given some lovely feedback. So yeah, thank you to everyone. And as great as it was, 10 weeks live is quite an undertaking. So it feels good to be back to All Good Things and back into the old familiar.
Agreed.
And what about yourself, Christos?
I'm going to actually I'm going to make it a double. I know I put a little note in here, but I'm actually going to say I have great joy and gratitude for Savick. And because I've got two now. Two things happened in the last week. Of course, everybody, I'm sure by now, has watched Unification 765874, where Robin Curtis returned to the role of Savick, even for just 15 seconds. But man, what a 15 seconds that she gave there, and how powerful that was, and just how really cool I thought the Roddenberry archive is doing with kind of keeping, I kind of call it like motion picture Star Trek alive, and to a certain extent. Almost all of these we got the one last year and the one this year. And I know it was on the Generations anniversary, and this does tie to the death of Kirk when the Enterprise D crashed and everything. But there's always this Star Trek motion picture vibe that kind of comes through there with the memory wall and everything. So, and of course we got to see William Shatner return, and it gave me all the feels. I know I texted you guys as soon as it came out, and I said, get your tissues, because I'm at work watching this on my phone, kicking myself for watching this at work on my phone, wishing I could be at home watching it on my big TV, which I, of course, later did. But what a great 10 minutes. And if you actually go through I know Trek Culture did a really huge 30-minute breakdown of it. There's so much hidden meaning in those 10 minutes. that I just loved it. And my other little Savick, before I throw it back to you guys, what you think on unification was my Exo-6 Savick shipped yesterday.
Oh,
so
wow.
my big Kirstie Rathacon Exo-6 is on the way. So double Savick.
Out of interest, how long have you waited for that between point of order and shipping? Because I'm waiting for stock still, and it's been nearly a year.
This particular one has been a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And I've seen other ones come out much faster. So so maybe it's just a matter of like whatever they're doing to produce that Rathacon stuff. Because you ordered Rathacon, Spock?
No, Ethan Peck.
Oh, I have that one already. I got it.
Yeah. Well, mine's still on the route. Pike stands alone on the shelf at the moment. He needs Spock with him.
Oh,
mine's in the other room.
Dear, I hope he's not gotten lost in the post.
Well, anyways, so what did you guys think of unification?
Well, I'm going to start with a question. Did you understand it before you saw the breakdown? Because I really struggled to understand what the hell it was. I mean, I appreciated the beauty, the shots, Kirk and Spock together, but it wasn't until I read, it's on Twitter of all places, apologies, the full breakdown of scene by scene that I went, yes, and then thought, it's amazing.
So I had an idea of what I thought it was, and that still makes better headcanon for me than what it really is. But I thought it had a lot to do with the Nexus, and you never really leave the Nexus. And so that's where I was taking out of it. So because he was in the Nexus, he's kind of interdimensional to a certain extent. Kind of that's kind of what I was drawing out of it. Obviously, it gets way deeper than that.
Yeah. What did you think, Amy?
Yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. I also was watching it while I was at work on lunch on my phone. But yes, how stunning, and like no dialogue, right? It's just all visual, and the feelings that you get from each scene as it goes through. It really, I mean, I didn't cry, but you go through so many emotions with that. And as you go through the characters, and like you said, there's Savick, Robin Curtis, just, so much there, and nothing was said. I loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, kudos to Roddenberry for putting this out. Huge. It's just amazing. It's a huge gift to us.
It is. I got really confused too, because then I watched there's a 7-minute video with Robin Curtis. It's also produced by Roddenberry Archive, and they're showing like the behind the scenes stuff. And in the behind the scenes stuff, her hair is dark, not white. And I got confused for a hot minute until I watched the Trek Culture. So yes, in the actual thing, she's got the white hair and she's older. But they actually shot stills of her and Spock and her son showing her wedding picture with Spock. And that's why she had the darker hair, because they actually shot other stuff, I think.
Wow.
So
do you think that's for a future release?
I don't know, but I got to go find it, because I know there must be a still image, because like I said, Trek Culture put it in their video. But so it goes one step further to really bring those Vulcan Heart and Vulcan Forge books from a long time ago that, Savick did get pregnant during the events of Search for Spock, and she went on to marry Spock later.
It's so good. I mean, you were saying about, the emotion and crying, and like so many times with Star Trek, I think it's the music, the beautiful orchestral score. It hits you, and there's no dialogue, but then there's so much said with a single look. It was really, really good.
And that was Michael, what's his face? He did the original. He did the Kelvin movie soundtracks, right? Yeah.
And Prodigy.
Yeah. No expense spared, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, apologies to anyone in the gym this week who was waiting for Kit. while I had 3 different people this week come up to me asking had I seen it, and I stood there at length breaking it down, explaining it all to them, realizing there was people waiting for my equipment. So apologies.
You were one of those.
I know, terrible, breaking my own rules. Amy, would you like to introduce today's topic, please?
Yes. Well, we are going back to our Holodeck Malfunctions series. This is part 6, and we are covering Deep Space Nine, Badda-bing, Badda-bang. So, if you remember, Vic Fontaine's Vegas Lounge and Casino has been taken over by a holosuite mob. The crew must stage a heist to swipe a cool meal from Frankie Eyes and Mr. Zemo and save the day. Otherwise, the show's over for Vic.
Brilliant. And I think it's only right that the Queen of Las Vegas gives us the outline for the episode. This is such a fun episode. This is a real guilty pleasure of mine, so I'm so glad we're covering it. But before we get into the fun, I guess the kind of the elephant in the room, we do need to mention that very, very recently, James Darren did pass away, and we lost him up there to the divine treasury in the sky. So I thought it might be appropriate that we just mark his passing with taking a little bit of a look at his career and him as a person, first of all. So, Christos, do you want to tell us a little bit about Mr. Darren himself?
Well, Mr. Darren, it was born James William Ercolani. Ercolani? I hope I got that. It's a very strange back name for somebody of Italian descent. Ercolani. Okay. He was born on June 8th, 1936. And of course, he passed recently, September 2nd, 2024. He went by his stage name that we know him by is James Darren. And he was a film actor, television director, television actor, movie star, director, singer. I mean, there wasn't anything that the guy didn't do.
It's more than a triple threat.
Yeah, I know. He's just this guy. He's probably what I would call like a gig guy. Like there's wherever there's work, he's going to be able to do it because he can do it all, and that's pretty incredible. And they don't make him like that anymore, do they?
Yeah. It's such old school entertainer, that kind of variety cabaret, bit of singing, bit of dancing, bit of acting, you do it all.
Yeah.
And Christos, you just mentioned he is of Italian descent, but he was born and raised in Philadelphia, but then moved across to New York City to study acting with Stella Adler for a number of years. And he was married twice and had 3 children. That's a little bit about the man. And Amy, do you want to tell us a little bit about his early movie career?
Yeah. So he back in the day, like studios would sign actors. And so he was signed to Columbia Pictures in 1956 for long term. And in 59, he played the leading role of Moondoggy in Gidget, also starring Sandra Dee and Cliff Robertson. And just so you know, he was the singing voice of Yogi Bear in 1964's feature, Hey There, It's Yogi Bear. I love that. Who doesn't love Yogi Bear? And in 1963, he then signed a 7-picture deal with Universal Studios.
I think he actually also had a big hit from that Gidget movie, like a song that was from the movie that went really big, and he was that really helped break him on the scene as well.
Yeah, I mean, have either of you heard of that movie? And the part apparently it is one of his biggest roles outside of TV.
I've heard of Gidget for sure, but I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I hadn't heard of it at all. Obviously, it's a long time ago, but I was just curious if it was one of the things that kind of leapt across the pond over to us here. So very successful in his own right with his movie career with Columbia, and then later in 1963 signing a 7-picture deal with Universal. But then, as we get into the 70s, he's career in TV started to take off. So, Christos, do you want to tell us a little bit about what he got up to on screen there?
Yeah, and this is so stereotypical for all these movie stars of the 40s and 50s and 60s who kind of like they puttered out as they aged out of being leading man, leading ladies. They went to television, and so in 1970, throughout the whole 70s, he had guest parts in Charlie's Angels, Hawaii Five-0, The Love Boat. I mean, who didn't guest star on The Love Boat? Or I should say Charlie's Angels as well, too. It was another one. And Fantasy Island. And it's kind of funny when you think about those shows, how many Star Trek actors have also been throughout those shows. It's kind of nuts. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, he was the host of Portrait of a Legend, a weekly show in which he conducted an interview with a popular musician about their career, interspersed with classic performance footage of that artist. It's kind of a little bit of a, this is your life for music. And artists who appeared were big ones such as Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Wow.
Yeah. Another Star Trek connection here. He was a regular on T.J. Hooker as Officer James Corrigan, and we all know that was Bill Shatner's other TV show, I guess we'll call it. His other most popular role. I mean, I guess he had that one with James Spader. What was the law one?
Boston Legal.
Boston Legal. So he did probably have 3 shows, we'll say.
Yeah.
But and he did also directed episodes of T.J. Hooker, T.J. Hooker. That is the name of it. I was saying something inappropriate. T.J. Hooker, which launched his career as a director, notably action-based series, including one of my favorite 80s staples was Hunter. I used to watch Hunter. The A-Team, another Star Trek connection there. Silk Stockings, Renegade, and Nowhere Man. As well as dramas such as Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, because we all know how important those dramas were.
Yes.
Hey, they're the ones I love.
Yeah.
I remember James Darren from T.J. Hooker. So that's really all that I know him. I don't remember him in Gidget. I didn't know Yogi Bear, but yeah, T.J. Hooker, that's where I remember him from.
Yeah, the more I'm hearing kind of his career laid out, he reminds me of people here in the UK. There was a great entertainer who passed away about 10 years ago called Bruce Forsyth, who is actually my James's hero. And he was like a game show host, hosted lots of interview shows, singing, dancing, recording artist. And he's got that kind of that generation's time of good old Brucey. So it's a shame. But yeah, we just said he had this massive, prolific recording career in music to the point where there was almost too much to put on the page to actually talk about. He had so many singles, albums, recording out. He had 14 studio albums with countless singles. His biggest charting success was Goodbye Cruel World, which hit the US Billboard chart at number 3, but was a number 1 in Canada in 1961. So yeah, he scored a number 1.
Wow.
Yeah. My last little tidbit I'll say about him was and I've heard a lot about him the last couple of months since his passing and whatnot, but just how well respected he was by everybody. He knew everyone and everyone knew him, and he was just a class act, and everybody who ever worked with him will tell you that.
Yeah. Has anyone have you had any interactions with him at conventions, or have you seen him at STLV? Have you had an autograph, anything?
What? Christos, you had at STLV, seen him. I've been to his panel, and he would do the Rat Pack evening concert.
True.
But yeah, I don't, me, I don't talk to actors, so no, I have seen him in person, and it was very, gosh, I got the feels when I saw him, when I was watching the episode, and I heard his voice and I'm like, oh yeah, that's James Darren. Like it just hit me and I'm like, oh, we've lost another great one. So like his voice and just how not timid, timid's the wrong word. Gentle he
Mm,
is. It's so you just want to hang around him.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. And to be clear there, Kelvin asked for interactions. So I have not
Okay.
interacted with him, but I have,
Yes.
to your point, of course, seen his performances and seen him on stage at STLV.
yeah, lovely. Well, I guess we all know him for playing Vic Fontaine in DS9. So, let's move the conversation a bit closer to home. Amy, what do you actually make of the character? What do you think of Vic Fontaine, James Darren portraying him in Deep Space Nine?
James Darren is great. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just I feel a little bit like Cisco. Like, what is the big deal? He's a holo. Like, why are we trying to save this hologram? So I'm sort of indifferent with him. He's neither here nor there. I know it's bad.
Interesting. Do we have a little bit
Yeah.
of holographic bigotry here, Amy?
Apparently.
How do you feel about the Doctor in Voyager?
Amy, you of all people. I looked at it a little differently. I'm like, I think Vic was the much needed counselor on the show during a time of war where everybody's under this huge stress. And of course, the holodeck always was supposed to be that escape. But Vic became more than his programming, much like the Doctor. If you look at what he did for Odo and Kira, and look what he did for Nog, he really was kind of becoming the counselor. And they all grew very attached to that because these people are in war every day. They're seeing their colleagues be killed. I mean, let's not forget the stakes of DS9 season 6 and 7. And think about it. You go to Vic Fontaine's and it's like totally escape. And of course, they're going to be protective of that and just love him to death.
I've never thought of that. And I was just about to jump in and say, but they had Esri, they had a counselor. But it's a little bit like the Guinan versus Troy in Next Gen, where you've got the hospitality worker, the ear over the bar, that kind of relationship.
Well, and let's not remember that Esri didn't come along until season 7, too. So this was introduced at a time when they weren't expecting to have Esri on the show.
Yeah. I'm quite conflicted when it comes to Vic because I've said this a lot. I really struggled and wrestle and quite object to the all boys writers' room of Deep Space Nine. DS9 is amazing. You won't ever hear me not say that. But I do feel it was too masculine. And towards the end of the run, when we got the baseball episodes, Vic Fontaine, it seemed very indulgent to the male writers. They were trying to write themselves something cool, and it's kind of detracted a little bit from Star Trek. I get what you say, Christos. It was good to have those kind of lighter beats and the points of difference to the very heavy war stories. But I never really, it felt like a boys' club. I don't really enjoy Rat Pack music as a style. Personally, big band music. I'm not, Michael Bublé, all that. It's not for me. But all that being said, I really like Vic himself as a character. I just don't like the surrounding and the setting.
Interesting.
And in particular, this episode, I love it. This is one of my go-to, I want to have a chuckle and see the fish out of water characters playing someone different. So, yeah, really conflicted about Vic.
That's so funny because, I mean, to clarify, my comment about that being a distraction was in terms of the characters. For me personally, those weren't my favorite episodes, and I tend to skip them because I just want to, especially when season 7 rolls and the war is progressing, and shows like the baseball episode and this episode in particular are just like, what happened there? We're in the middle of something, and now we're completely off having a one-off episode to a certain extent. But I will say, and when I rewatched this episode yesterday, it was like I hadn't watched it in so long because I skipped it that I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Sometimes, you think you're doing a rewatch and you do a very selective rewatch because you know which ones you skip. And it's not until you're very fierce with yourself saying, no, I'm going to watch all of them again. And even when it's on TV and syndication every day, you think you're watching them all, but sometimes you may just change channel if it's the one you don't like. So, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to revisit ones that we don't naturally put on.
So you do watch Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so one of the big themes of this episode, as much as it was a romp, was actually really serious. It was Sisko's reluctance to participate in the fun in Vic's plight because of what was the case in 1960s Las Vegas casinos in relation to Black community not being welcome. And I think, as Sisko said, as a janitor, maybe, but as a customer, never. So it got me kind of thinking of this revisionist history of, portraying Vics in a way that there were customers of color and different backgrounds, like we should have seen at the time. So, yeah, are we able to look back through history through a socially inaccurate lens in order to be entertained? Benjamin thinks it's offensive to do so because it kind of overlooks the troubles at the time. So I was curious what you think about that. What do you think, Amy?
Because Cassidy, that's her name, right? Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's like, well, I go, as a person of color that she is, I go and I have never felt that. Of course, it's programmed. But she points out this is what should have been. This is what could have been. And I like that take of it. But yet, is there a harm of, just saying, well, I'm going to take out the good because I like it. That's the part. And that makes me curl because we need to be accurate. But the benefit of doing that is, like, I sort of feel like we do that with Star Trek. Like, Gene Roddenberry was no saint. He did not have this ideal of what this great philosophy is. And we pick and choose and just sort of, and I do believe we critique what's wrong, So I'm sitting on the fence with it. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm right there with you, Amy. And I think if you go to some of the episodes that we've done on this program, we're not afraid to take on the parts about Star Trek that are wrong. And for me, the inclusion of Sisko's point of view in this episode actually makes it about that and calls out that and shows 90s television audiences that this was not the way it was, and it calls that out so that we're not whitewashing history and we're not doing that. So had Sisko not had his point of view in this episode, and we just kind of glossed over it like everything is great, yes, it could have been really wrong, but the writers went out of their way to show us that what's happening here is not the way it was, and it actually calls more attention to it by doing so.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. There's lots of shows out at the moment which do a similar kind of narrative, like your Bridgerton, Gilded Age, even Heartstopper, in the way it talks about LGBTQ plus in school settings, to the point where there might be really young people watching those shows and actually taking it as factually accurate and not appreciating the struggles that marginalized communities went through. So the fact DS9 was so explicit to say, no, it's educational.
Yeah. I'm going to just take a little minute here and say something, and then I'll be done. But I think we need more education of our past and the reality of our past in our schools and in our entertainment. I feel like there is a certain bit of our younger generation that don't understand what it was to be, whether it's gay or a person of color or a woman in different times. And that idea of we're not going back meant something, but I don't think it really meant something to people of a certain age who have not endured massive discrimination or on some level. And it's unfortunate, because if we've history is doomed to repeat itself if we don't teach it. We've known that like forever, but I think it's unfortunately playing itself out a little bit right now.
Yeah, I feel like when I hear "Make America Great Again," like I mean, I know Gilded Age. I haven't watched Bridgerton or Heartstopper, but I know Gilded Age, and it's like, okay, if you were rich and you were white, yes, that was a great time to be alive. Like, period. Of why wouldn't you want to go back because you just don't even care about anyone less than you, because they're serving you, right? Everyone is for you, all the money, all this. And I'm just like, we do need to teach it accurately and say, yep, we screwed up.
Yeah.
We screwed up. But look at where we've come and look at where we need to go. So I agree. We don't want to get rid of it. And I think it is okay to say, yeah, there were some great things there, but we're not going to go back and we're going to make it even better.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, even I'm a big fan of Gilded Age, and for all the opulence that they show us in the Gilded Age, and the grandeur, they did go this last season to show us, just what the Russell's family business was, and they go to them to show the workers striking and show the living conditions of some of those people, and which is good. Maybe we should spend more time on it, and it does tackle the racism of, I forget the character's name, of the one character, and shows the difference between the African American community in Brooklyn and the rest of what the Russell's family and the Van Ryans are doing. So yeah, I mean, I know we're getting way off on a tangent here, but I think it's very important that we display history accurately. I think that ties it back.
I think it's a really good emphasis of way of that kind of concept of privilege. If you've not been marginalized in any particular way, if you're a straight white man, everything's great. Enjoy your entertainment. But I'm reminded of when people talk about history, and someone would say, I would love to go back to the 1920s and experience this. I always point out saying, I wouldn't. I'd be thrown in jail. Thank you very much. So that kind of concept of, I can't appreciate history in terms of I would love to live in that time, because until certain rights were granted to my community, I would have found myself a criminal. I would have been miserable. So I'm sure all the fashion and the music was great, but I'd have been terrified. So it's along those lines of, and the world we live in now has changed, and there's been struggles along the way, and it's really important to point those out.
Yeah, and when we watch these things, does it really sink in what they're watching? Because I saw Wicked on Friday, and we all know the story of Wicked, and that book was written in 1995, I believe. So let's take it back, right? But when I saw Wicked the other day, there was a gay couple sitting next to us, and they were covered in MAGA stuff, and I'm like, so you're gay Republicans, and then we're going to watch this movie that deals with these heavy issues and the marginalized and people being stamped out for being different, and like, does it even go? I guess it's like over your head. Exactly, Miss Kelvin, little gesture there, listeners, but it's over their head, and I'm like, and this tells me that they're not deep thinkers.
Yeah, and unless it was Make America Green Again.
Could be. But I guess that's what makes us Trekkies, doesn't it? We are critical thinkers, and we take in and we give thought to what we're watching.
Yeah.
Just to kind of finish this off, because it is quite heavy in what is a light episode, they made such a big point in this episode of the people of color in Vegas. However, there was no attempt made to rectify or change the narrative on sex discrimination. You know, the way women were portrayed in this episode, there was no attempt to change that, and there was no pointing things out in the storyline either. So I'm just curious, Amy, what you feel of that when there's, you know, that guy checking out Esri and Kira as basically a mistress, and the other girl who's just portrayed as a bit stupid. And really, you know, what's your thoughts on that?
It's total damsel in distress. Every single one of them. Oh, he stole my money, you know, to O'Brien, and, you know, crying on the security guard, you know, oh, he took my money and you need to save me. And, you know, or, you know, please, Esri, you know, bending over in that ridiculous outfit, which still exists today.
Wow.
And it's so infuriating when you go down the strip. I mean, even at the Rio, these ridiculous costumes that are just showing way too much skin in this cold environment. I just feel so bad for them in these little frills and sequins. And I'm just like, it must be so uncomfortable. And we're still making people dress like this for what? It's hanging on to that era of what is the purpose of women.
Right. I mean, until guys start walking around like that, let's, you know, they need to make some changes. Even at the Aria, which is where I stayed, you know, upscale, one of the more upscale hotels in Vegas. That's still the culture. And then, you know, Kira's playing that role of the seductress, which is another trope, right? You know, she's using her feminine wiles to manipulate a man, which is what, you know, evil women do, right? Ugh. But this goes back to what you were talking about, Kelvin, of having no females in the writer's room. You know, Avery Brooks had no problem, of course, asserting his authority as the lead of the show to say, I need this written in, I need that written in. And he was in a position to do that. And that goes right back to like season 1 of TNG, where the Jonathan Frakes and whatnot were welcome in the writer's room to make their points, but Gates McFadden was fired for making her points. And there was just a vacuum in that Berman era of Star Trek. And, you know, save for the Jerry Taylors of the world, there were no female voices. I am riled up on Sunday morning.
Wow. Right. So, well, shall we move on to some assimilations of regenerations? And let's quickly start off with some assimilations of what we loved about the episode. I'm going to start off by saying I like the screenplay to this episode, the storytelling style of when they were all talking in their circle about this is how the plan's going to go. It was filmed and you saw it, only for then when it actually happened, you saw all the things go wrong, like the drink being spilled and everything not going to plan. So I loved that cinematography of this is what it should be and this is what it was. So yeah, I will give them props for that, because you don't get that a lot in Star Trek.
It's very Ocean's 11.
Which is a movie I've not seen, which clearly this is based
on. No, yeah, and I think this was before the first Ocean's 11 remake, but Ocean's 11 was an old movie from like I think the 60s. Yeah, which was a Vegas heist. So it's kind of like the whole, they map it out and they're showing you what's to be, and then of course things go a little bit bonkers. Nothing ever goes according to plan, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and watch that. Well, I'll watch the remake. Is it Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt are in it? I think.
Yeah.
And George Clooney.
And Andy Garcia. There's a whole bunch of people in those movies. Yeah. They're literally all-star cast.
Yeah.
Amy, any assimilations for you?
You know, I just love it because it is so cliche. It just, the entire, everything in the holodeck is just so cliche, down to, oh, Vix is the nice, good place. And then it gets changed to the bad place of, you know, sexy women on stage, the burlesque style, and the rowdy customers, and ooh, this is the bad holodeck. You know, it just is so campy. I love it. It makes me smile, even down to the stupid cocktail outfits, and Kira in the seductive. I mean, I love that red dress. I mean, I definitely need to get that. I need to cosplay that one year. It just is, to the tuxedos. I mean, the little bow tie, that was really smart looking. I mean, it fed into this whole, we're going to take a break from the war, and this is going to be a fun little episode. And I just have to give props to it for having that little break. And it's just, everything is so cliche. I just eat it up.
Brilliant. And what were you loving, Christos?
Well, I got two things here because I was expecting someone else to talk about the security guard. So I'm rewatching it last night, and the security guard, I'm like, God, that guy looks familiar. And of course, it's this big hunking Strad with light eyes. And I'm like, that's Chris Mayer. And I'm like, Chris Mayer, if for those of you of a certain age, he was Vance Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard. So during the Dukes of Hazzard filming, John Schneider and Tom Wopley striked, and they got replaced for almost a whole season by their cousins, Coy and Vance. This was Vance. And then Chris Mayer also went on to be on the soap opera Santa Barbara for a couple of years. And I remembered him from that. And believe it or not, this was his second to last role he had. He basically, all during the 90s, he guest starred on every 90s show you could think of. But this was his second to last credited show. He died in his 50s in his sleep. But he was always such a heartthrob. And I obviously had a young little gay crush on him. But it did not take me like 5 minutes yesterday to put that together. I was like still watching it, and I walked across and grabbed my Deep Space Nine companion, and I'm like, I'm looking this up. I know I'm right, but I'm going to confirm it. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I like that little his interaction with Cassidy, and I just thought it was a really, really cute scene, and the way she overacts, and is in a very she's acting like a really vulnerable woman, so it's almost like anti-hero. She's portraying that role even though she's a strong woman. So it's quite complex.
And the minute she sees that Nog and Odo got away, she's like, gone. Like, I'm done.
And then he's like, wait, what? He was still like in the hug.
Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah. The other thing I really love about this episode was Kira. And I say that because, of course, Kira has a lot to be thankful for Vic, which I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, if you think about the Kira Nerys that we met in Emissary in season 1, and the Kira that we have at season 7, you really see her arc come full circle, and the huge development that she's gone through, and how she's softened from all the trauma and PTSD of the Cardassian occupation, and how much more well-adjusted she is, and just willing to have some fun. And I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree there, but also kind of coupled with the Nana aspect of, she must have just really loved this in the same way when she did Colonel Come On and Off in Our Man Bashir. You could just tell Nana had great fun doing those scenes.
I'm probably thinking that it's probably how Avery Brooks felt about that too. Like, hey, I get to go do something else, and when you play a certain role and you play a certain type, Kira's usually tough and ready to break somebody in two pieces, a la Worf, and even Avery Brooks in this episode, he got to show off his singing voice at the end. And that was by design, probably even by request. They figured out a situation in which he could do that. But what a nice treat that is when you get to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So what didn't we like? I think I've already put it out there enough about the kind of the sexism in the episode, so I'm not going to go there again. But I will say, and maybe this is similar to what you were saying, Amy, I really liked the altered Vix. So when the Jack in the Box went off and it was Frankie Eyes Casino, it just seemed a lot more fun. It seemed like somewhere I'd want to visit with the burlesque shows. It was busier. There was more of an atmosphere. It was all smoky. Yeah, I wouldn't say like that. But Vix is a little boring. There never seems to be a lot of customers. It's very quiet. It's just Vix singing. And it's, bring me Frankie Eyes Casinos. That's... So I wasn't really liking when it went back to normal. That's my regeneration.
Yeah. My regeneration is with Odo being the server. What's that called?
The tray.
The tray, yeah. My issue is with Odo being the tray. Like, I just have an issue with the mass. Like, here he is a full man and he turns into a small tray. I get it when he was the cart. Remember the little green man? Right. And he was the cart or the dog or something. Like, that mass seemed appropriate. Like, I didn't lose anything. But for him to be a tray, then to slime up to this, it still messes with my brain and I just don't like it. If it was something larger mass that I could imagine a full grown tall man get to. Yeah, that's my regeneration.
Well, two things on that. First off, Esri drops them. He gets dropped. But secondly, we've seen Odo be a rodent and other small things. So obviously he can control his volume as well as his shape. That's just something that has to be true for his species.
Yeah, I guess I just have to accept it.
The mathematics of changelings.
Yes.
What about you, Christos?
Mine's minor. I feel like, and this is just because of the running time of the episodes, of course, being what they are. Cisco comes around a little too fast for me. He goes from being very staunchly opposed to it. Cassidy kind of has 3 lines of, how her point is. And the next thing you know, he's coming into the room when they're making the plan and let's go, whatever we got to do. He's all on board. And I'm like, and there's that part that is also important to his, wife to be and all that. So he's kind of getting on board for the sake of his relationship, probably. But it just kind of happens. Maybe there needed to be like one more scene to show that evolution in his thought process. I don't know. Like I said, minor. I'm nitpicking at this point.
Brilliant. Well, let's get on to some trivia then. There's quite a bit of trivia and continuity, actually, to this episode. I guess I've already had my education that this script does borrow and parody from the 1960s Ocean's 11, which starred Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, and Angie Dickinson. So some big names there.
So unlike the other songs Vic sings on the show, the Alamo song he sings near the beginning of the episode is not an old standard. It was written specifically for the show.
Well, that's amazing. They don't have to pay any royalties for that,
Yes.
So O'Brien, poor O'Brien, right? His role as the innocent Patsy, getting strip search and kind of coming back at the end with his getting his clothes back on. Like, what happened to you? Don't ask. It's just this continued trope of O'Brien must suffer.
And Robert O'Reilly, better known for his role as Gowron, portrays the replacement accountant. He was credited here as Bobby Riley to help hide the fact he was the same actor. And O'Reilly commented, Ira Stephen Burr and I talked about it, and we thought it would make a fun trivia question for the fans if I showed my face once without the Klingon makeup. If it was true trivia, it's actually twice because he was in The Big Goodbye, not The Big Goodbye, Manhunt in TNG in Dixon Hill. So yeah, he's done it before.
Yeah. I didn't know because I saw the credit as Bobby Riley and I'm like, is that his son? Like that threw me. So, okay. So Ira Bear had wanted Avery Brooks to sing on the show for some time. And after shooting the episode, Bear commented, quote, it's just jaw-dropping how good he is. That comes from our Deep Space Nine companion. Previously, Brooks had briefly sung in the episodes Move Along Home, Far Beyond the Stars, and His Way.
Wow, that fact also comes from page 666.
Oh.
Are we referencing ourselves now?
Yeah. So we talked a lot about this. So Of Ben Sisko's controversial racial commentary in the episode, Bear explains, we didn't want the audience, especially the younger audience, to think that 1962 Vegas was a place where you had a lot of Black people sitting in the audience at nightclubs or enjoying themselves at hotels and casinos. That just didn't happen. So by having someone of Sisko's historical understanding questioning that fact, we could clarify before we got him to Vic's that he's well aware that Vegas was very, very, very white.
By the time this episode aired, Burr was well aware that there'd been some dislike and backlash against Vic Fontaine. Some fans loved him, but others disliked the concept of the character. Burr specifically wrote Sisko's role to act as a surrogate for the fans who wouldn't accept Vic, with the idea being, if Sisko could be won over, then anyone could be won over.
And the Vic Sisko duet at the end of the episode, The Best Is Yet to Come, refers to the 9-part series finale. In the production order, the final chapter commenced right after Badda-bing, Badda-bang with Penumbra.
Yeah,
Best
by the
is
way,
yet to come.
that's like next up on my watch. I'm just going to keep going to and finish out the series from yesterday. In fact, I almost got into Penumbra yesterday. I'm like, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Oh, did you watch the Bashir on Voyager episode then? Because the production order was switched. So the one where Bashir goes to Romulus.
Oh yeah, that. In fact, I watched the first 10 minutes of that, and I was finding myself getting a little tired. So I'm like, I'm going to stop because I want to not fall asleep in the middle of this.
Nice. Okay, well, final thoughts. Previously covered episodes in this season were The Next Generation's Big Goodbye, DS9's Our Man Bashir, Voyager's The Killing Game, Lower Decks I Excretus, and Prodigy Ghost in the Machine. We've had a good selection of holodeck malfunctions across the franchise here. So this is a good Who Did It Best. So Christos, who did it best?
Well, first off, I'll say there's probably not a stinker in these. If we cut about 6 episodes, counting the one we're doing right now, there's no stinkers in here. They're all very, very good for their own reasons. But I will stick with the OG here and say The Big Goodbye, because it didn't take long for TNG to introduce the holodeck and then show us that things can go wrong on the holodeck. And I mean, that really sets up for everything that came after, including Lower Decks kind of making fun of the fact that things go wrong on the holodeck. But and of course Beverly's hair in that episode. So we'll go.
What about you, Amy?
Wow. This is a great episode for holodeck malfunctions. However, they didn't do it the best. I think I'm just being nitpicky. This isn't really a malfunction. This was played as was intended, because the creator, the whole Jack in the Box, it was intended. So it's technically not really a malfunction, but it is super, super fun. So my vote is going to be with the Prodigy Ghost in the Machine. I love that. And I love that it's malfunctioning based off of the character, of the crew. So that's where my vote goes. But this is certainly a super, super fun episode.
Amy's got a thing for Tellarites in gay harnesses. Go back to watch that review. I am torn here because, like you, Amy, am I nitpicking? Because am I going for what my favorite episode of those are, or what is a true holodeck malfunction? I think I'm just going to go with the former and surprise myself, actually, that I'm not going to Berman era. I'm actually taking Lower Decks. I Excretus, because it's actually my favorite Lower Decks episode. So,
well, there you go.
If it's in the list, I'm having it.
Okay. I love it. What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin and a guest as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into Beta Canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea-Bab. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Coming up next week, a new season, and so it's only right we have a new series. So, Christos, since it was your suggestion, tell us a little bit about next week, please.
Well, I was sitting here and I was like, hey, there's an episode I want to talk about, but I don't think we quite had a series. And all of the series that we have here, shockingly, that this episode could be pigeonholed to. So I was like, whenever that comes up, much like our courtroom series, we just create a new series, right? So we're going to be starting a new series, part 1 of Murder, She Wrote. And this series is going to deal with the tropes of suddenly somebody's been murdered on one of our shows, one of our ships, one of our stations, and it kind of becomes the investigation who done it. And it kind of was like slapping me over the head when I came to this, because I'm like, there's so many of those episodes. So we'll be kicking it off with season 6 of Star Trek The Next Generation's Suspicions, one that highlights my fave, Miss Beverly Crusher.
Brilliant.
Such a good episode.
Yes.
We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and we hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or on our Discord server to continue the discussions there. Please follow the network on Bluesky and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed. Links can be found in the show notes. So, Amy, where can people find you when you're not bending over with your cute little tray, putting down martinis next to rich accountants down there in Las Vegas?
And I loved Ezri's like, are you going to drink that? Because I'm really thirsty. That would be me.
You'd put down an empty glass.
Yeah. Oh, dear. I'll go get you another one. Well, listen, you can find me here on the network talking on Union Federation, where we're covering new Star Trek and also the Orville. I'm very excited. We're going to be covering the characters, do a little character profile for the Orville. I'm very excited for that. So find us there, Union Federation. And I am quite enjoying not only our Discord server, but on Bluesky. So yeah, find us over there. BQN Podcast on Bluesky. That's me. Christos, where can people find you when you're rolling a lucky 7?
You can find me on Instagram and Bluesky at Greek Geek SD. Trying to spend a little more time over on Bluesky as well. It's growing exponentially in the Star Trek community the last couple of weeks as everybody has abandoned X, it seems, at least in the Star Trek community. You can also find me at What's the T-Bev on Instagram and also on What's the T-Bev. And a new episode dropped a few weeks ago. And I have another one planned hopefully for next weekend. So keeping that going a little here on the side. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not flirting with Cassidy Yates?
When I'm not doing that, you can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group, or you can come for me directly on the socials at Kelvin's Timeline.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Hive Mind Roundtable discussion, script readings, and enjoy our special patron-only shows of It's Green and Amy's Man Moments. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
And if becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing the posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, leaving us a star rating and a written review. That really does help others to find our little show.
At this time, we would like to thank our very own associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and JJ Seastrum. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and to Mark White for our branding and graphics. Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.